The burnt egg roll?
Oh shit. Alright, I'm here.
What's up, man?
How you doing?
Yeah, I haven't seen your face in a while.
Yeah, it's been a while, man. How do I look? A little bit older, huh?
Nah, dude, you look the same.
Right on. You look good too, man.
I mean, we just hung out like, what, a few years ago? A couple of years ago? Not too long.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Yeah, I guess your audio is pretty good. It's not bad.
Okay.
Slight echo, but overall it's straight.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. Next time, I can hook it up with the iPad and then, put in the pods. And I think I can do the Zoom app on there too.
Got you. But if we're going to have a next one, I'm going to have you talk some shit about some Democrats and Republicans.
I can't use my real name for that, though.
I know.
It's something we were more concerned about, like, when we were applying for a position. Because, like, people will look up your social media. I don't know, if one of the members ever got the perception, like, that I wasn't nonpartisan or I wasn't able to do that, maybe they would Google me and say, what's up with this guy? So it's just like, they don't explicitly tell us, like, not to post stuff or, like, not attend protests or anything like that. It's basically, it's like a risk calculus, It's like, you try to think about, like, well, if this member heard about me doing this or saw me doing this, like, what would they think? And it's, our job is all about, like, we get asked to do things by all of them, the Democrats, the Republicans, the very liberal Democrats, the more centrist ones. It's like, when they come to ask us to help them with a bill or policy options, stuff like that, it's, can they trust us? Like, am I coming in with my own angle or something? Am I going to sabotage it or not try as hard because I don't like it or whatever?
Yeah. But real quick, backtracking, I was going to ask you about, like, your job a little bit later, but, like, what year did you leave Korea?
2013.
2013.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you were there quite a bit after I left, because I think I left in like 2011.
Because I left first, right? Like, I left in 2010 and you and Dan were still there. And then I came back early 2011 and you were still there because we hung out a bit, like, before you left.
Yeah.
So I saw you go too, right? Didn't me and Harridan, we came to the airport with you and Kate.
Vanzi was there too, I think.
Vanzi was there. Korea was still fun, but it wasn't, like, quite as fun, like, after you and Dan left, like those 2 years I spent there.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you, what were you doing most of the time when you were there?
I was dating Harridan for pretty much all of that time, I guess. And then, hanging out with other teachers. Not quite as cool as you guys.
Your boy Alex, right?
Yeah, Alex. He had, like, the long blonde hair. He's from New York City.
He had that very strong cigarette smell, I remember.
Yeah, he was a real party dude, like, even more than you. He would go out during the week, like, weekday night, we'd, like, teach a shift, get off at 10, and he would go party till like 2 or 3 in the morning and then come back. He was, like, spending all his salary on, like, drinks and taxis and cigarettes and just really living that life, And I was like, I don't know how long I'm going to be doing this. So for me, I was trying to make it work more long-term. I try to get, like, during the week, like, more regular sleep. I went to a gym in the morning.
No fucks given, man. But
this guy was, he knew it was going to be temporary. He was, like, fresh out of college. He was just like,
I like that. He knew what he wanted. He knew what he came for.
So I guess hanging out with him, like, at night could be fun. Although he's going a little harder than I wanted to go sometimes. And then probably another good friend I met was, like, through Harridan. Like, she had a friend named Ginny, and Ginny's boyfriend, this guy named Sunghwan.
So you were there till 2013, and then after that you moved straight back to Seattle, though, right?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Okay. And then you ended up getting into which law school?
Seattle University.
Okay. I know I've asked you this probably before, but like, what type of lawyer are you?
Like what area of law? I
Yeah.
guess is that what you?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I would guess I would say like legislative. You know, like larger. You could just say public sector. So legislative, government. You know.
So are you dealing with like national laws or strictly like state laws?
Yeah, for me, it's everything. I'll look at federal stuff. Definitely doing most of my stuff with state because it's state government. Uh, but then also a lot of local stuff too because I work in local government issues. So a lot of like city and county stuff too.
Oh, okay. I remember you saying you got to work with both the Dems and the Republicans, right?
Yeah. Our office is nonpartisan and we work for all of them. Yeah, it's just we help them kind of facilitate the whole process, like committee meetings, like floor action, type up all the bill reports, do the presentations. They want help drafting bills, amendments, stuff like that. Like we do all that stuff. That's what my office basically does.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sounds fun.
Does it?
I don't.
Does it sound super dry or like what is your impression of that?
I would say for me personally, like I couldn't see myself doing that like every day, man. Maybe back then, like I would when I was like more ambitious for money, like I think I would if depending on the price they put on it, I would consider it. But if you had to ask me like is that like something I would enjoy doing like every day, I would. Yeah. I could honestly say probably not. But let me ask you, since you're the one that is has to face it every day, or think about it at least. Like, how do you feel? Like, real talk. Like, is it like you see yourself like doing this for the next like X amount of years till you retire? Or you're like, damn, I just want to make enough money and then maybe go into something different.
I would say real talk. Like, I'm super happy with it. This is something I never expected to go in or like never really even knew existed. Like not every state has like these types of offices. Like California, I think California uses partisan staff. So the Democrats have their own staff, the Republicans have their own staff. I think Wisconsin's like another one similar to us that has a big office, but like I kind of got going into law school, like I got more interested in like politics and world affairs, national affairs, local stuff, and working in the legislative area, you're really just like connected with it all the time, and like at the state level, we're trying to help them solve problems, like whatever it is, in environmental, health.
Like I was gonna say, see what you're
criminal justice.
What you're doing is like real politics to me. The shit that we see on TV, I'm like, yo, that's some bullshit, man. They change the story like so often, you know what I'm saying? And it's just like a media circus that goes in a circle, man.
Yeah. It's it's a business, and I think they kind of like pick up or key on like what they think is important or like what sells news or whatever. So, it's kind of nice not to be focused on that at all. And I kind of had a feeling that I might be good for like law school or whatever, because I kind of like analyzing things, looking at a certain set of laws or like certain scenarios and like what kind of like really fits real well, or like looking at different arguments for policies and trying to like objectively look at all of them and just kind of being aware of what's out there. So I don't like for my job, I don't make judgment calls. I just kind of know like what lever pulls this switch, what goes this way, like that. Whatever the member wants to do, I just kind of help them go in that direction. And then in terms of like work-life balance for a lawyer, it's like fantastic. That was something I was kind of scared of going into law school, because I heard about like a lot of young lawyers, like, they get pulled into like law firms coming out and they're working like 60 plus hours a week and they just get like super burnt out, and they're working on super boring shit like transactions and stuff. That's why I was kind of leaning more towards the public sector. They don't try to bleed you as dry as much because government's not a business.
I would
not to say we don't try as hard, or we try less hard or anything like that, but it's just like it's a different atmosphere, it's a different environment.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a side of law that not too many people like think about, at least like the common people. Like we think about like the type of stuff we see in movies and TV shows, right? Like in the courtroom and they're talking shit back and forth.
Yeah.
The criminal law side,
Yeah.
That would be fun too, right? To talk some shit back and forth.
Definitely.
But it would suck having to defend somebody that you're probably like, man, I know this motherfucker's guilty, right?
Yeah.
But I gotta lie and say,
yeah.
I gotta try to get him off, man.
Yeah. I mean, it's in that way we're just the same as other lawyers, right? Like maybe like a member has like a certain policy approach that like personally like we're not a fan with, but like we still go 100% for them, just like a lawyer may not love their client or think they're super guilty, but they're still like trying to defend them vigorously.
Yeah. So what is like your title? It's
staff counsel.
Have you heard of the one called JD?
Oh yeah. I'm one of those too. That's basically like
your title, right?
Who gets that degree? It stands for a Juris Doctorate. That's the degree you get when you graduate from law school.
If you had to write a book, like what would you write about?
I would love to be able to write books. Like I wish I had like a cool idea. That's actually like, I don't know, I guess everybody has that dream, right?
Being a lawyer, like have you ever had a thought or idea of like writing something, I guess, towards like some political side?
I've always more had a desire to like write like a fictional story, just like an interesting story about people and bullshit and trying to inject some humor. Maybe it could be like set in this political like area and stuff, because this is what I know.
you know other things too though, like sports and stuff. I guess talking about like the current climate of like the media circus politics, like the type that the people that work 9 to 5s, they get off and they just want to watch something and not think about work. So they turn on like Fox News or CNN and listen to people like talk shit about one side or the other. Like it's kind of, I think, interesting like what is going on now, because I guess we're at that age where we're paying more attention to it. Mm-hmm. And we have a very like eccentric president right now that is trying to get reelected, and I think they're making it, I don't know if they're making it, but it seems like more of a show now to me. Do you have any current thoughts on like what you're seeing right now
in terms of the news coverage?
I
mean, it's kind of similar to what we were talking about earlier. Like there's some sensationalism, and then depending on what their political views are, like they're always like spinning it a certain way. Like it's really, sometimes I wish there was like a news website or a news source that like literally just typed out like headlines without adjectives, just told you what happened, like gave you nothing but facts and like numbers, and then let you make your own judgments from there. Mm-hmm. But it's like,
it's not interesting, right?
It's not interesting, and then it's almost impossible, because like even if you like make a web page where you're putting like whatever you're putting on your front page or you're putting up at the top, even that's like emphasizing the importance of it. Mm-hmm. I guess you could create a news website that literally just like ordered them by like what was the most recent event, and maybe that would be neutral. But
I think sometimes,
I don't know who would go to this who would go to this website.
I think if news was all like facts and the truth, like the common people, they would think differently, right? Like how they do live their day to day and how they think about like life. I think it would change a lot of things.
There would be more agreement if people actually thought something was a fact and true and like took it for that. How could there not be more agreement? You would just be like, oh, okay, that's how it is. But like, like we were saying, there's all that spin, and then like everybody has varying levels of distrust with like the media.
Did you get a chance to watch the Mike Pence and Kamala Harris debate?
I did, yeah.
I when I tried watching it, but I was like, man, this isn't as entertaining as Trump, man. That's one thing I would miss about Trump is he makes like
You're right.
politics like
the first one was way more entertaining, and like yeah, they were like talking all over each other and like telling each other to shut up. Biden looked ruffled, like Trump had like seriously gotten under his skin. The next debate was completely dry. I thought the fact that they were sitting down was kind of a weird choice too.
But let me ask you this. Do you think because this is the way that politics is portrayed in the media that it's kind of misleading to the general public, right? If the people don't like do their own research as far as like the numbers and world issues and stuff, and they only focus on the he say, she say that they portray in the media, and that's their only idea of what politics is, do you feel like it's kind of doing a disservice to the American people, or that's the way the government wants it?
I mean, you're definitely doing a disservice to yourself, right? If you're not independently looking at the facts and what happened. And it's tough too, because like who has the time? You barely have the time to like read the article. You don't have time to like go open the court case file or whatever, you know, look into the data and statistics and stuff like that. And then
I think that's like the few 55% of people that like vote, you know what I'm saying? Or the people that actually like care to do that kind of stuff, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I don't know. There's people that I guess that vote off of like the hype, right?
I mean, if I'm really interested, like I will pull up the report or I'll pull up like the judicial opinion and stuff. But it's like most people don't do that. I don't know if the government exactly wants that. Like in some ways, it works in like politicians' favors if their constituents or whoever like trust them, or if they have a strong base, then they can kind of just get away with saying anything, and what they say like really sways people. But you know, there's probably politicians out there too that wish like, damn, I wish they would just read the report, you know, they would just take a look at this, because that could work negatively too. Like maybe they're trying to make a point, but like nobody really believes them because nobody's actually like really looking into it too.
For me, like it's a little bit harder to like trust either side, you know, like Dems or Republicans, because I feel like the way that's portrayed in the media, unless you do your own research and try to figure out the facts for yourself, you're just going off of what these guys are saying. And sometimes, you know, I think they're known to lie, or they'll say something and then you can easily go back and pull it up and be like, yeah, that wasn't true.
And there's also a lot of things like pulling them every which way beyond their own personal beliefs. You know, there's getting reelected, there's lobbyists, you know, there's everything. There's just like, it's loaded statements where they might be saying this for a certain reason or a certain group of people. Or
I feel like a lot of it is scripted sometimes. You know, I feel like there's people that already know what direction they want the country to head in, and then they have these two people go at it for almost a year, you know, and get the people hyped up.
I mean, they have mega staffs, you know, campaign advisors, speechwriters, like PR people. Most of the time, there's thought put into it, which raises the question with like Donald Trump's tweets. Do people think he's just like tweeting those thoughts on the fly, like that's him just like on his phone or whatever? Or is that like, are all of those tweets like very carefully orchestrated by someone, and they kind of know what kind of reactions they're gonna evoke? You know, people are criticizing him, just be like, oh, an idiot, he needs to get off his phone, and like, or it could just be like, no, he did that for a specific reason. I don't know what to think. I mean, I don't know what the truth is. I mean, what do you think about that?
It's like what Joe Rogan said. We're living in the age of spin, man. At a certain point, man, I feel like the American people are going to be so like numb to everything. And the attention span for everything is getting so low, right? Because the information comes so fast.
Yeah.
So the only people I think that their word is going to last long is the ones that they stay true to themselves and then stay consistent. But I guess it's always like the zeitgeist that we live in, right? We're just living in the times. We can't really control it. Like
constantly.
The way it's set up today, it favors someone like Trump, right? who's very like media centric.
Yeah, yeah.
It fits in his favor.
He's media savvy. He's social media savvy. He's all of that.
Yeah, he knows how
He
to
knows
play.
how to push the buttons.
He knows how to play to the crowd too. You know.
Yeah, yeah.
He's a populist.
People underestimate him all the time.
Do you think there's like a lot of like silent Trump supporters out there?
That's a good question, you know, because like going into the 2016 election, it seems like there were a bunch like people didn't even realize. And then like now that he was president, like there seemed to be more like people just
being more open
about that.
Mm-hmm.
There's probably still some, but not, I wouldn't say like not to the level there was in 2016, I would guess. I think people are a little more open these days about what their thoughts are.
Then do you feel like the polls are a little bit more accurate right now versus 2016?
And I don't believe the polls at all. It's tough to poll because it's always like a sampling of people, right? And then you're trying to project it over a larger group, and you see it too many times where it's just like the result goes the other way.
I guess it was similar to 2016 because they were projecting Hillary Clinton to win, but then just like this year, everything's in favor of Biden, right?
Yeah.
But there's some people, like one of my younger brothers, he's a big Trump supporter, and he firmly believes.
Doug?
Cliff.
Oh, Cliff.
He's the redneck, but he firmly believes that Trump is going to win this year, man, contrary to what the polls are saying, because he's like, he believes the Electoral College is in favor of the Republicans, which it is true. Yeah. It is. I think it just
could be right. Yeah.
What would that be like, man? Another 4 years with Trump? You feel like it's going to be different or more the same that we've been seeing?
I mean, it's going to be a lot of the same. He'll keep the same kind of tax cuts that he has for businesses right now. He'll continue to try to like undo what he sees as like stringent environmental regulations that are harmful to business. You know, continue to help out certain fossil fuel industries that may be struggling these days, like coal. Really continue to try to dismantle Obamacare. What will be very unpredictable about the next 4 years will be like what kind of world events or what kind of like foreign policy events will happen. And that's like the wild card of like, oh, how is he going to react to this? What is he going to do? Like, you know, because you can kind of predict the things like the tax cuts and the deregulation and stuff like that, but you couldn't predict like a pandemic and then like how he and his administration like have gone about, you know, handling that. And then like, you know, what if there's, I don't know, what if conflict escalates to China or Russia, or who knows what could happen.
Are you pretty like satisfied with how he's done as a president, or do you feel like it's time for a change?
If I looked at just like objectively in terms of like some of the things he has wanted to achieve and whether like he achieved success in that way, like he's not a complete failure, at least to like people who support him, I think. Because it seems like the tax cuts have been great for businesses. The economy was booming before COVID, and you know, for people who wanted less immigrants in the country, he's certainly made that happen. We have a much stricter amnesty policy, and the border has really kind of tightened up at the South. And you know, he's done some of the things he's wanted to do. He's like completely renegotiated like trade terms with China. We don't necessarily have some now, but like the ones we had before are gone. I think he personally feels like we shouldn't have had such a cozy relationship with China because of the trade deficit. So, you know, he's been a lot stricter with them. And I don't know what the numbers are, but I would guess he's probably increased like military and defense spending. And you know, he's probably been good for like Midwest, small towns. Started working like a career field that where I can't be like more candid about who I am and my thoughts and stuff.
It's all good. I understand that. And I think like there's still some people out there that would like to hear kind of like your thoughts since you work in that kind of industry, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You just got to be more politically correct, that's all.
Yeah. It's tough. It is super tough.
I mean, I think if you gave your thoughts on certain like people, like it's okay, but if you like start calling them motherfuckers and shit, then it becomes a problem, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I think everybody's entitled to their own opinion, right?
Yeah. But the problem is like the people I work for.
Oh, you're worried about the people that sign your checks?
Yes.
Got you. You sold out, man. You got to give up a little bit of your soul for that money. I get it.
I do. That's not you're right. That's not inaccurate.
It's the trade-off, but it's all good.
Yeah. I can't completely be me all the time.
Yeah. One day I might have to sell my soul too.
Yeah. I can kind of square myself with it though, because I honestly believe like having people that kind of do what we do helps the political process, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like having like research analysts and lawyers and stuff that don't have any stakes in what's going on and they're just there to help, just there to be factual, like instead of, because you know they have their own caucus staff too, but like everything they say is like caked with layers of strategy, you know. We're the only ones that are just like, what do you need, you know, we'll help you get it done.
I think the way that you look at things is probably like the best way to look at things, you know, with like a non like biased opinion. But like you can tell like sometimes when you talk to somebody, like if they're being real based off of like what they're saying and how it pertains to like what benefits them, right?
Yeah, definitely.
But I guess that's how our political system is set up, right? To like have two main competing parties.
Yeah.
Sometimes the people, we allow that to happen, right? Have you seen this movie called Man of the Year with Robin Williams?
I feel like I might have saw that when I was younger.
Yeah, I think it came out in like 2005 or 2006 maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But it's about him. He's like a political commentator, comedian kind of guy in the movie. And then someone suggested he runs for president and he runs for like an independent and he wins. I think for whatever reason throughout history, like I guess the people sometimes are just trained to think that this is the only way it can be, right?
Yeah, it's the only way it's like worked so far. You know, there's been some popular independents in the past, like Ralph Nader. I don't know if you remember that guy.
Remember the name. Ross Perot was big too, right?
Ross Perot, yeah. So I don't know. I don't want to say it's impossible, especially like in this day and age where like somebody can generate like so much like movement and support for themselves through like their own just like social media promotion. Mm-hmm. Like it could happen. Trump ended up being a Republican candidate, but like everything about him was like very kind of grassroots, coming out of his own self, you know, and his own people. Like it didn't seem like initially like that, you know, the Republican Party that wasn't necessarily who they wanted to win the nomination. He's continued to rise within the power dynamics of their party. You know, he's at the point where he's like far and away number one with the kind of sway, and other members of his own party are like careful about their positions on things compared to him.
Do you think a lot of the stuff he's doing is like out of him thinking like independent, or he's just doing it because he doesn't know any better and it's for himself? Here's the argument that like my younger brother would use, since he's a Trump supporter. Like he thinks that Trump is similar to JFK, like trying to expose people and do his own thing. But I'm like, I don't get that vibe. I feel like he's more for himself, and he's like, whatever will benefit him the most, and then the people second, then that's what he does. And it could seem like he's an independent doing shit different, like a JFK, but I don't think it's for the people.
Right. It's hard to say if like he's actually doing that or he's just like winging it, and he's found like that perception of him like works for him. I probably will like lean more towards like what you think. But
this guy doesn't know what the fuck he's doing.
I don't know. Maybe he really perceives himself as that type of person, even though maybe he actually isn't in practice. A lot about him seems very self-promotional.
Definitely a megalomaniac kind of guy, right?
Like some things, yes. Like I mean, when you put your name on like everything, like your golf courses and your hotels, and like he basically like used his own self branding to like save himself from debt. Like he rose like basically through The Apprentice and like all like the merchandising and promotion that came out of that. Like he made like $500 million, you know. And then I don't know, there's like perceptions too, because like he's got all these properties, right? Like these hotels and these golf courses and stuff too. And you kind of like put the links between certain groups, like, oh, this guy works for this company, this guy works for that. Like they have benefited from like his policies, like his tax cuts or his deals or whatever. And then these are the same people that are like dropping money at his hotel to like host a convention or something like that.
I guess in his defense, he's not the only president that has benefited from, or other companies that have benefited from presidents, right?
Yeah, that's true.
There's a lot of,
but he also seems like the one who's maybe doing it the most.
Or he just doesn't care. He's like, I know, and people know.
Incredibly self-promotional, because when you take office, you're supposed to like relinquish control of like most of your businesses if there could be like a personal conflict, you know, between that and like developing like national policies. But he didn't really do that.
What are your thoughts as far as like the outcome? Because it's coming up soon, right? It's November 3rd. It's only a few weeks away, right? Not that much time left, man. What do you think is gonna happen?
I mean, like you said, like the polling's really indicating Biden right now, but that was the same case before. And like, I don't want to say there isn't some truth to polling, and I think maybe a lot of what happened was, right, like the polling was favoring Hillary, and then Comey came out with the private email servers like right before the election happened, and that probably had a huge impact. I don't think they had time to do polling based off the impact of that. Like people really responded negatively to that. I don't know, it's like it's early October. I still feel like there's time for something to happen.
Especially the way media flies so fast today. Anything can happen, man.
I mean, what I have heard, like you said, with polls, like overwhelmingly, it seems like Biden's gonna win. But, and I also looked at some stuff related to like people who work in the financial sector, you know, like invest in stock markets and stuff like that. And there's kind of been betting and investing with this idea that it looks like Biden's going to win, and that would provide more stabilization for global markets too. Just because I guess he's a little more predictable.
Yeah.
And usually those type of people who work in those sectors like seem to be a couple steps ahead of everybody. So I don't know. I still think it's a complete toss-up right now.
Yeah, I think Biden, I feel like, would bring some stabilization to the country and probably to like markets and stuff, right? Because as you said, he's a little bit more predictable. He'd probably be more by the books. Trump, he'll do anything, man.
Yeah, you kind of know where Biden stands on a lot of stuff, and you can kind of project where he's going to go on it. Like for instance, more investment would funnel towards renewable energy and things like that, based on where you think his policies are going. But Trump, it's hard to tell.
Yeah. Do you think this COVID-19 thing with him was real or it was staged?
I think it was real. It could be staged, but that was just my initial gut. And like when he tweeted it and the fact that it came from him, there was like a real sense of like seriousness in that moment when he first sent that out. Like, oh, he could die. And he might have even been scared himself. But then, you know, he's gone through all the treatments now, and now he's doing fine. And I don't know, he's choosed to go on the route of saying it's not that serious. But you know what is encouraging is the fact that it seems like the treatment processes have gotten better, because like he was in the dangerous category, right? He was an older man, and he's considered overweight. You know, his health's not the best. I think he has a reputation for eating McDonald's.
My favorite restaurant. He knows what's good. Are you pro-vaccine or anti-vaccine, or you gotta wait?
As far as like COVID-19.
Yeah. Are you going to be one of the first to take it, or are you going to wait and see?
I will do it if it like goes through like the full like FDA process, you know. But if they're skipping stages, like what's been going on with some of the vaccines around the world, like for instance in like Russia and China, I don't know a ton about vaccine development, but it's like one of the last stages, like stage 3 or 4, where it's like mass testing with like thousands of people for side effects and things like that. If they're not doing that, then I'm good. I'll probably wait.
Yeah.
But if it is going through like the normal vetting process, then it seems like the responsible thing to do.
I think Bill Gates, he might be putting a microchip in the vaccine.
To track people?
To track people, man. No, I'd save that for later.
How small of a microchip would that have to be?
I'm reading a book called Behold a Pale Horse by William Cooper, this guy that was murdered by the police, but he wrote this book about like the New World Order and the governments, like secret governments and stuff. And in the back book there was a article about what I'm telling you is like there's going to be like vaccines with microchips that they can trace people. It's all conspiracy talk.
What was this book written?
You said when?
Yeah.
1991.
That's like really stretching right there, because the microchip technology was like nowhere close to doing something like that at that time. He's predicting it. He doesn't know for sure.
Yeah, I'll save that for another day. Some conspiracy talk.
Yeah.
But
I mean, they don't need to put microchips in us to track us. They're already tracking us with our phones, you know?
Yeah, all the metadata that they're collecting on us. But I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, you know, who knows, right? It'll be something that the next generation and the next generation will have to worry about.
I mean, some data is good, but I guess when it's used for like, I don't know, advertising and stuff, like that's not as good.
Like psychological shit, you know, like the Cambridge Analytica shit, right?
Or stuff like that.
Yeah. It's like psychological warfare. They don't think about it that way, but like if you show people that don't really have a direction, subconsciously you're like, yeah, Hillary Clinton's crooked. Yeah. And you don't know who to believe, and it's like they do that to like the people that are undecided, right? That are of legal age to vote.
The persuadables. Yeah.
The persuadables, exactly, right? I do believe there's some truth to that.
Yeah.
And that's the downside of collecting metadata.
There's some people that are more like malleable or like shapeable than others, right?
Yeah, especially the young kids, man. And
they can be influenced.
People that are like, I think in their early 20s or younger, they're easily more influenced, right? The teen years and early 20s is some of our most influential times of our lives, right?
Yeah.
Where we're trying to figure out who we are as humans, and you know,
haven't been around very long.
And it's more socially acceptable today to have a cell phone, and kids that are like 11, 12, 13 years old, they're on TikTok and Instagram and conversing with like grown people.
I'm so glad like we grew up in the era that we did. Like I didn't grow up with like a Facebook or Instagram or Snapchat or whatever.
Yeah, it's a different ball game today.
I didn't even have a cell phone until like high school. It was calling and texting, but that was it, dude.
I guess that's the downside of the metadata, or however information is passed. These kids that don't have a strong sense of what to believe in, or people checking them all the time, they're going to be more susceptible to be on some Antifa and Proud Boys type of stuff, you know?
You know, that's where it helps to have like decent parents too, though.
Yeah, it's important. Have you been keeping up with basketball, or you've been off of it?
No, I've been watching. I watched Game 5. Oh shit, Game 6 is on right now.
Lakers are up right now by 10, 9 minutes in the second quarter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
that doesn't sound good.
For the Heat, right?
Yeah.
I haven't been too invested in these finals because I already kind of have a feeling the Lakers are probably going to win.
Oh yeah, I was shocked Miami won Game 5. Yeah, I've turned into a real Miami and Jimmy Butler fan throughout these playoffs, because it's just been such an amazing run. You look at his game and you're like, where's this really coming from? But like at the end of the night, he has like a 40-point triple-double. And you're like, how did he score all those points?
Yeah, I definitely have more respect for him after this year than the past couple of seasons, right? Where he's been kind of like, the narrative of him has not been written well about him.
Yeah.
Even though it's probably not true, right? He probably is a great teammate, but he just wants to win so bad. He's that competitive.
I think he's just like, he seems like he's like a bit intense and like a hard worker. And if like he sees somebody else not giving 100%, like they're gonna hear about it. A lot of guys don't like that, especially if they're like a star themselves. They assume they're doing everything right all the time. Like I don't know if that's what happened with him and like Towns or whatever.
Towns and Wiggins, man, both of those guys. Well, maybe they just didn't have the right older veterans to like show them this is how you gotta play and approach the game, right? But Jimmy Butler, he's been in the game for a minute, and he's been through wars with Derrick Rose. He knows what it takes, at least in his mind.
His Miami teammates have like seemed like they really bought in. He's like the leader of that team, and he kind of inspires like all those guys to play better. Those young guys, you know, they got like Adebayo and Hero and Duncan Robinson. Dragic has been a good vet.
Yeah.
Super fun team. Too bad it sounds like they're going to lose in like an hour.
You think for them to be back next year, do they have to add any pieces or they're good?
Probably, yeah. Because I feel like, I mean, Hero has room to grow, obviously. Like, he's a rookie. Adebayo has room to grow. But, like, I also feel like this Heat team, like, completely maxed out. Like, they played the best basketball they could possibly play, like, to get to this point. And everything went right for them throughout, like, the whole process. So it's like, you know, to get back to the finals again, like it would help to have like another big scoring piece to like make it a little easier. And the Warriors did that with KD. That was like overkill with KD, but it's like you add KD to Stephen Clay and you're like, yeah, this is
I felt
like too easy now.
LeBron had to get out of there, out of the East, man. There's no way. But what LeBron did with that last Cleveland team was pretty amazing too, right?
Yeah.
He basically did what Jimmy Butler did this year.
Although Kyrie had some big moments too, like especially in the finals.
But his last year there, right, where he didn't have Kyrie, Kevin Love was injured pretty much the whole year. He just took like a whole bunch of like role players to the finals, man. And then they got smoked by the Warriors, of course.
Oh, the one they lost,
His last year in Cleveland.
Yeah, he can do that in the East.
Yeah, in the East,
he can get to the finals, and he has, because he's been like 9 times, but he's won like 3 times.
Where do you rank LeBron all time?
It's tough. I guess you got to think about it for a second. Jordan's obviously locked in number 1. Like, I think so. I mean, I know like for us growing up, like there was a lot of like Kobe, MJ argument. Like people like to do that. I don't know if that's an argument in your mind. Is it?
No, it's not.
Because I know you're a huge Kobe fan.
Yeah, but I'm a bigger Jordan fan. And just based off of like the stats and the numbers and everything, you know, you got to say, you know, as great as Kobe's career was, I think statistically and achievement wise, MJ is just a little bit better. But Kobe did his thing.
It's tough. And then you got those guys in like past eras where like we weren't born yet for them, but they were also like incredibly dominant players, you know, like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Will Chamberlain. Like those guys were just like cheat codes on their teams, basically.
But it's hard to say because like the game was so different back then, right? The rules were a little bit different.
Like how many damn championships does Bill Russell have?
It was just a different game.
He got like 8 or something. I don't know. Something crazy.
I think he has like 11 or something.
Yeah. Well, where do you put those guys? Because you're like different era. The rules were different.
It was a smaller league.
And just to be honest, there were a lot more white players.
Yeah.
Not as good.
Yeah, I know. It's hard to rank like an individual player in such a team-orientated game, right? Because a lot of times a player's success depends on who they have around them. For me, in my mind, like a good scope is, would this player be able to dominate in any era if we're just comparing like individual talent? But I would say like Chamberlain and Russell, if they played in like the 80s and on, like I know that their numbers wouldn't be as good and Russell wouldn't have as many championships, I would say.
Yeah, then look at maybe like Kareem and be like, oh, his numbers were that good and he was in the 80s.
Yeah, Kareem, he's the truth. He's one of those guys that he's arguably number 1 of all time. But for us, I guess we automatically put MJ there because we've seen him play and we've seen what he's done, you know.
It's like I need to understand more of Kareem and see more of Kareem to know where to put him. I guess the most real argument we can have is Kobe or LeBron.
Kobe or LeBron.
Right?
Yeah, I guess as far as like playing against like in the same era against the same people type.
Yeah, and us also like spending so much time watching both of them.
But then I talk to a lot of young kids, you know Michael Jackson, like kids that are like early teens, and their whole mind is LeBron James because that's of their time, right?
Yeah.
That's who they look up to. They've never seen Jordan play.
They never saw Jordan.
So everything they see is just highlights and his
At least
stats.
an awesome Jordan documentary came out this year.
Yeah.
You can watch that.
I assume you saw everything, right?
I have not seen it, dude.
Oh, you haven't watched it yet? Yeah, I think you'll like it, but it definitely does show Jordan in a different light, right? Or you didn't see it, but like, you know,
That's what I've heard from people.
But it just
Not
shows
the
you.
greatest light.
But I mean, it was real though, because he's the one that he pretty much had his hands on everything, like how he was portrayed in it. Even though it might not be the best, that's who he thinks he is, right? He thinks he was that dude.
So gut call for me, I'll probably go LeBron over Kobe, and I'll just put LeBron at 2 since I don't know enough about the older guys.
LeBron over Kobe. LeBron over Kobe. Yeah, I can't even argue that, man, because we're old enough that we saw pretty much Kobe's whole career, LeBron his whole career, and it's still going, right? His stats at the end are gonna far surpass Kobe. He'll be one chip behind Kobe after today. He's right there, I think.
And just like what you said, that finals where they got blown out by the Warriors, I feel like we've just seen LeBron a few times like carry these like garbage squads all the way to the finals.
LeBron definitely does more for any team that he's on than Kobe. Kobe's like a straight scorer, but LeBron, he does everything. He just wants to.
It's the passing. It's the come from behind blocks.
I guess the biggest knock on LeBron, they would say, is that he doesn't close out games in the fourth quarter like Kobe. But
if you got to choose one over the other for that, you're probably taking Kobe.
But everything else, I think, who has a bigger imprint on each individual game, I would say LeBron.
Yeah, he fills the stat sheet up, not just points.
Yeah, I would say LBJ, by the time he retires, if he ends with like 5 or 6 chips, I think you can put him on the Mount Rushmore.
Most def, yeah. I'll say number 2 right now.
Number 2 overall right now?
Yeah.
I guess that we've witnessed, right?
Yeah, that we've witnessed.
Because like Magic and Bird, they were a little bit earlier before us, right?
Yeah.
I know you got to get going. Like, last thing I wanted to ask you, like, have you been listening to any good music lately?
Yeah, mostly like indie alternative.
Any good particular band or song that you like?
There's this band called Fleet Foxes. They just came out with a new album a couple weeks ago. Pretty good. Yeah, I don't know if you ever check out that stuff.
The older I get, I've been trying to like broaden my musical spectrum. So I've been like doing more research on different genres, like going back in time to like different decades.
Oh yeah? What have you been listening to?
When I was doing more research type of listening, I would listen to like some Leonard Skinner, some Van Halen, there was another band, I can't remember, some like 70s, 80s stuff.
You ever listen to Fleetwood Mac?
It's funny you mentioned them because Bone Thugs and Harmony sampled one of their songs.
Like, oh really? Which one?
I think like Windblow, something like that.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about going back and doing some more research on them.
They're really good. That one guy's singing a Fleetwood Mac song in that TikTok video. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Mm-mm.
The guy who's on the longboard sipping the cranberry juice.
On the TikTok or the music video?
On the TikTok video. It's just like some bald dude with like a goatee, and he's got like a neck tat, and he's like filming himself, and he's like on a longboard, and he's like lip singing the Fleetwood Mac song and like sipping on some cranberry juice like next to this like freeway and like what looks like Southern California. But then it turned into like this huge viral sensation, and like there's been a whole bunch of like parodies, and Ocean Spray bought a truck for him and like gave him a bunch of free cranberry juice and stuff too. You should watch the video. I don't know, there's something about it. Like I kind of like it too. Maybe there was just something kind of real about that moment when he filmed it.
Are you on TikTok?
No, I'm not. This one video has been in the news so much. Like,
I'll YouTube it. After I get off here with you, I'll look up what is it, Fleetwood Mac and then cranberry juice.
Yeah, that'll get you there.
Right on. I was gonna ask you last thing, like as a kid, like what artist or band do you feel like inspired you the most, like when you were in your teens or 20s?
Teens versus 20s is definitely like way different.
I guess starting with teens, I would say for me it's like Tupac and Bone Thugs and Harmony. Like their message as a teen like stuck with me the most even till today.
I didn't listen to like a ton of Tupac. Basically just like California Love.
Yeah, the commercial stuff, right?
The commercial stuff. And then when Bone Thugs was super popular when I was like in 5th grade or whatever, like I had that cassette. The first cassette I actually bought was like TLC. I also had like a Fuji's cassette too. That was real good.
I met Wyclef. Did I tell you that? He's a cool dude, man. I went to some a few years ago. I went to some event that he was speaking at in South Central.
That's awesome.
And he came through the door, and I was rocking this Beavis and Butthead T-shirt, and he just walked in real cool, and I was in the back chilling, and he walked by, and I put out my hand, and he shook my hand, and he was like, "That's a dope shirt." And I said, "Thanks, man." I said, "I like your music." He's like, "Thanks."
You're meeting some celebrities, dude. You met the big ball, that picture.
LeVar, he's cool, man. He's a nice guy. I was like, "Yo, LeVar," and he's like, "Hey." And I was like, "You mind if I get a pic?" And he's like, "Yeah, come on, man." Remember that music group Immature with Marcus Houston, the dude that played Roger on Sister Sister?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I seen him at a Laker game. I walked,
you did?
Yeah, I didn't say what's up, but we made eye contact, and I think he knew that I knew who he was, but he was with his old lady, so I didn't want to bother him. Yeah, out here in LA, I saw Iman Shumpert at Target one time. He was with this girl, Tiana Taylor, that singer.
Yeah, you're just running into people. That's funny.
Yeah, LA, man. If you're out and about, you'll run into some people here and there. So you don't have any particular band
or
artist?
To choose. I was all over the place. I was listening to a lot of rap. When I got in like middle school, I was listening to like a lot of Cash Money and No Limit. And DMX, man, I would always listen to DMX like before like a baseball game or a basketball game or something to get me hyped up. I had all of Eminem's albums. Yeah, and then like in high school, like I got more into like alternative, like Taking Back Sunday and those kind of bands, like kind of emo-ish. Mm-hmm. And then college, I got like super into like indie rock, and that kind of just stayed with me after that. Then I started to get into rap again a little bit more like in my 20s, like because I was into like early Kanye and Drake. Yeah, some of those guys. It's hard, man. My music's been I'm always kind of just up for listening to whatever I vibe with, I guess.
Yeah, I feel like your musical taste kind of like is based on the different time spaces in your life, but you don't have like one particular artist or group that like their message was like influential to the point where you're like, okay, it still makes sense in 2020.
Yeah, I don't know if I got anything like that. That's tough. For you, you said it was Bone Thugs and Tupac. That's pretty good.
I guess for me, because like I didn't have a good relationship with my dad, so like as far as like influence, I guess I look more towards like outside versus in the home. But I feel like for someone like you probably got along with your dad, or I don't know, I might be guessing on that.
No, we got along. Yeah.
Maybe his voice was a bigger voice in your head as far as like thinking.
Yeah, it was. It certainly was. Him and my mom. I probably like let them influence me too much actually growing up. And that's why I end up making certain choices that I definitely wasn't like really what I really wanted to do. That's how I ended up in like ROTC and stuff like that. Mm. I mean, I always had my own voice, but to like trust my own voice like more than any other. Mm-hmm. Like listen to people, especially listen to people you care about and trust and things like that. But at the end of the day, like the one that matters the most is always your own.
I like that. I think we'll end it there. That's the realest shit. As you get older, you got to learn to trust that voice in your head, right?
Yeah.
And say, I'm a man, whether the choice is good or bad.
You're the one who lives with it. Trust yourself,
Always, right? But yeah, man, I appreciate you like taking your time out on this Sunday to chop it up, man.
Yeah, it's fun, man. Like rapping about this stuff, like talking about larger stuff and just being open-minded. Thanks for doing this. This was cool.
Yeah, man. Anytime.
We should get Dan on here too, the three of us.
Get Dan on a three-way call. With Dan, he's very opinionated, right? Which is good.
And he always calls people out, man. He calls me out all the time.
He'll keep it real, because he kind of sees things like how we see it,
He keeps it super real.
He'll be a good guest, and maybe I'll hit him up and see if he wants to do one of these virtual ones.
Yeah, if he wants to do it.
Yeah, we'll get him on here, and then see what happens, man.
Yeah, anytime you want to talk.
Yeah. We'll try to set something up.
Sounds good, dude.
All right, thanks again, man. I appreciate your time.
All right. Yeah, no problem.
All right. Peace out. Thank you.
This concludes our Danse Macabre.